Okay, now. Now, as you can see here in this section, I have highlighted a lot of this, dialogue between the two of them, which is really very strange. You see how even the mockery and the real absolute funny mockery, associated with the father's language towards his son, the way he speaks to him. It's not even, sometimes you think it's even not like a father-son relationship. It's really sometimes strange to see that. But the way he behaves, it seems quite unusual. So he was trying very hard, as you can see throughout this narrative, to get the money and so on, but he could not. And I think he talked about something to do with the government and something to do, I think, with the idea of, again, I think indirectly, I think the writer wants to attack all these questions to do with society and with the government, and it's in a very, very, really strange, ironical way, I mean, the way he talks to his son, as if he's blaming him for something to do with the whole of society, which is really not possible. So you can see here throughout this chapter, you can see all this carry on between the two of them. I mean, the both son and father. And again, you find it really quite strange, really, the way they were talking about that. And again, indirectly, sometimes you see that the writer also is talking self-consciously about the question of humor and the question of comedy in so many places here. And I think he showed that, and he did it in a very strange really way. For example, here when he was talking about government, here on this page 19, when he was talking about what kind of government is this, and I think this is to some extent, I don't know if I read this to you last time, but it shows Mark Twain's terrible strong, again, I think, attack against the political system in America at that time. And the way he goes on about, what kind of government is this, and he mocks the whole idea of, this government. And he called that, he talks about it here in this page 19 and 20. Notice here when he goes about this is, about the government, and he calls all kinds of names and things really in a very funny way here, as you can see in this page 20. As I said, the whole thing is, I think, has maybe many double standards, if you like, how he's really talking here to his son, the way he speaks to him, and as I said, directly attacking the government in so many strange way. And I think we laugh a lot about this, the way he does it. For example, notice here, oh yes, this is a wonderful government, wonderful. Why, look here, there was a free nigger there from Ohio, a mulatta, and it goes on and about that, about the question here of racism. I think it's funny, and it's really strange that Huckleberry's father talking like this, as if he is a good sort of man, and really strangely really character in so many ways. Notice here what he was in so many ways saying this. The way he mocks the election day and the way he talks about the election and American election, and he mocks all this in a way. Notice they call that a government that can't sell a free nigger till he's been in the state 6 months. Here is a government that calls itself a government, and let's on to be a government. And he goes on, which is really very funny and very amazing how he's talking about all this as if, as I said, he's a very nice man. But we know, of course, he's a terrible thief in so many ways. And in chapter 7 and 8, and in all this, we see him, we see Huckleberry managing to run away from his father, and again, I think I found it really quite funny and strange to see how he did that. And again, the way he gives us all this details about the way he and Tom Sawyer, and as I said, finally they managed to go together with Jim. And you can see the details, for example, here, when he said, all right, I can't stop anywhere. I went to Jackson's Island is good enough for me. I know that island pretty well. Nobody ever comes here. And then I can paddle over to town nights and slink around and pick up things I want. Jackson Islands is the place. Again, I think there are a lot of detail about this. As I said, some of this I found it, I don't know. I mean, the way when you read this, you find a lot of details which are sometimes really not supporting anything to do with the plot. What even you ask yourself, where is the plot? Even, where is the plot? The way he talks about this, I was pretty tired, and the first thing I know, I was asleep. Look at this. When I woke up, I didn't know where I was in a minute. For a minute, I sat up and looked around a little scared. Then I remembered the river looked miles and miles across. This is as I'm saying, when he ran away from his father, and then, as I said, to finally find his friends Tom Sawyer and Jim. And he gives, as I said, really sometimes useless, or to some extent, to me, I thought meaningless details, really meaningless details. Notice, I was always below the ferry now. I rose up and there was Jackson's Island about 2.5 miles downstream, heavy timbered and standing up out of the middle of the river, big and dark and solid, like a steamboat without any lights. There wasn't any signs of the bar at the head. It was all under water now. As I say, you wonder again, as I said, about the details. Why all these details? What is he going to tell us? Notice in the next chapter, chapter 8, the sun was up so high when I walked that I judged it was after 8 o'clock. I laid there in the grass and the cool shade, thinking about things and feeling rested. Again, I was powerful, lazy, and comfortable. Didn't want to get back and cook breakfast. Well, I was dozing off again when I thinks I hears a deep sound of boom. Again, you can find, I think if I go back to my friend, Rip Van Winkle, You know, you can see this in a funny way here again, because that's really, it seems it seems that the whole thing is, to him, is that he wants to be comfortable and lazy and do nothing, you know. And I think this is what I said to you before about this Rip Van Winkle syndrome, which is to just go into the forest and relax and get asleep and lazy around and do nothing and eat from you know, like being in nature, in wilderness, whatever he can, and so on. So really, the novel, it seems the novel supports this idea of, as I said, this relaxed, open, lazy, comfortable, wild, natured, primitive, maybe primitive, semi-Indian, semi-red Indian background. In a way, the whole thing was like that to some extent. Notice, I roses up and rests on my elbow and listens. Pretty soon I hears it again. I hopped up and went and looked out, you know, again, and he talks and talks and talks about that, and you know, he tells us, as I said, in a really funny, you know, if you like, detail. Notice at the end here. Notice, I lit a pipe and had a good look. Sorry, had good long smoke, and went on watching. The ferry boat was floating with the current, and I allowed I'd have a chance to see who was aboard when she came along. And you know, he goes on. By and by, she swam along, and she drifted in so close that they could run out a plank and walked ashore. Most everybody was on the boat. Pap and Judge Thatcher and Bethy Thatcher, you know, and he talks about all these. Everybody was talking about the murder, but the captain broke in and says, again, you know, talking about the murder, the supposed murder of him, and you know, as if to say he's faking his own murder. Again, I really found it strange and to some extent not really funny. I don't know. I thought it was not funny. Anyway, and you know, he goes on to tell us about this till finally, as I said, you know, notice here at the end of this, what he said. By and by, sure enough, I catched a glimpse of fire away through the trees. I went for it, cautious and slow. By and by, I was close enough to have a look, and there laid a man on the ground. It most gave me the fantods. He had a blanket around his head, and his head was nearly in the fire. I sat there behind a clump of bushes about 6 foot of him, and kept my eyes on him steady. I was getting gray daylight now. Pretty soon, he gasped and stretched himself and hove off the blanket, and it was Miss Watson's Jim. I bet I was glad to see him. I says, "Hello, Jim," and skipped out. You know, again, all this carry on, all this details, you know, 9 chapters wasted. And I think, you know, to finally tell us that now he meets Jim, and then they are going to go into the river, you know, and the example here about that, I think, is, as I say, is quite strange. And you can see the language and the dialogue between Jim and Huck, again, quite really funny to some extent. Notice here, well, I weren't long making him understand I was dead. I wasn't dead. Look again the way that he's acting again to say to us that he pretended to be dead, and he was acting as he was dead. I mean, saying to people who, you know, he pretended to have been dead and then he ran away. Everybody in the town believed that Huckleberry is dead, and they're looking for the murderer and so on. And it's really funny to say that maybe they would be looking for him, thinking that he is the murderer of the murder, which is really quite strange and quite funny. I don't know. I mean, as I said, Huckleberry Finn and Mark Twain throughout this were, to some extent, to me, they were really shocking and not sometimes not funny. Notice, I was very glad. I was ever so glad to see Jim. I weren't lonesome now. I told him I weren't afraid of him, telling the people where I was. I talked along, but he only sat there and looked at me, never said nothing. Then I says, notice, then I says, it's good daylight. Let's get breakfast, make up your camp free good. And the way they start to talk about this, as I said, it shows, well, first really the pure, absolute pure innocence of Jim and his really, you know, here to talk about the question of slavery and the slaves and the terrible attitudes that slavery, you know, as a system was so harsh, and we really take the side of Jim in so many ways, and we understand his terrible, really, situation. And notice here the way he's saying to Huck that, you know, in a very innocent way, Jim saying, well, I thought I heard that you were killed, or you were, you know, murdered or something. And as I said, this is, to me, I thought this is really very, very strange about that. And Jim then told him, well, I ran away myself because I'm sick of being slave, and because I heard that they are going to sell me to another master, and I don't really want that. And you can see this here. Notice, how do you come to be here, Jim? And how do you get here? He looked pretty uneasy and didn't say nothing for a minute. Then he says, maybe I better not tell. Why, Jim? Well, there's reasons. There's reasons. There is, you know, you want to say there is, or there are reasons. But you wouldn't tell me off if I was to tell you, would you, Huck? You know, again, you can see, of course, the language here. You know, well, Jim speaks his own, if you like, Black African, if you like, American accent, and I think they did it deliberately to some extent. But this is their manner of speaking, or their accent, if you like, or their dialect. Blamed if I would, Jim. Well, I believe you, Huck. I ran off, Jim. But mind, you said you wouldn't tell. You said you wouldn't tell, Huck. Well, I did. I said I wouldn't, and I'll stick to it. Honest, you know. Here, to some extent, some critics, some really critics say that this section here shows the absolute unity and, if you like, the complete brotherhood between Huck and the Black Jim. Notice, honest in June I will. People would call me a low-down abolitionist and despise me for keeping mum. But that don't make no difference. I ain't going to tell, and I ain't going back there anyways. So now, let's know all about it. So, he's saying to him, come on, I'm not going to tell to anybody. Tell me why you ran away or why you ran off. Well, you see, it's because this way, old mistress, he's telling him that his old mistress is going to sell him to other people. And he said, I don't like it. Notice here, said she wouldn't sell me down to Orleans, but I noticed they was a nigger trader down, he's saying that a nigger trader wanted to buy me and to take me to another state. So I don't want to, he said, I don't want to leave. Well, one night I creaked to do poor date. You're lucky if you can understand anything of this. And the one gone shut, and I hear the old miss tell the wider she going to sell me down to Orleans, but she didn't want to, but she would get $800 for me. And, he goes on and on about that. And then he said, of course, I ran away because I don't want to be sold. As I said, in this section here, in this whole chapter, we feel that, as I said, this dialogue, it's a long dialogue, as you can see. The way he's saying that, he's going to be, if you like, sold and if you like, to be tortured in so many ways, again, really is the problem here. So the idea, I think, is quite interesting to see. As I said, many people really thought that in this chapter we see absolutely the question. In fact, as I said, which is they call it as being like brotherhood or something like this, which is, to me, I thought this is okay in a way. So, in fact, here in this chapter, he, if you like, the idea here how he spent, these lonely times, and then later he met with his friend, and how they started to, if you like, to go into this journey together. Jim, if you like, throughout this chapter and the chapter after that, it seems that he was happy, he was delighted to be on his own, but I think the novel is going to say that he was maybe happier to see Jim and to save him again. So that's why we see him here, if you like, quite maybe happy to say that he was able to fully save him. So if you like here, Jim, you can see here, feeling that he was not disappointed to have done what he had done to run away. Since, of course, you can see that he really wants to, to, if you like, have freedom, I think, as the whole novel is trying to tell us. In chapter 9 and the chapters after that, you can see this is really again another more and more details about uh, their life or their existence, how Jim and Huck lived in this island for a while, and then how they take the canoe and the provisions, and how they, kept everything in this island for a while, and how, questions of superstition and so many things to do with this superstitious elements to do with Jim expecting rain, and how they lived in a cave. It's again, I think, as I said to you before, this is something really supporting the idea which I said at the beginning about Huckleberry's or Mark Twain's idea about living, or the question of easy, natural, simple, wildlife kind of life. Again, to go back to Rip Van Winkle, if you like, here, in this way. At the end of this chapter, they decided to leave in a canoe, in a little boat, and of course, this is how the whole thing in this, as I said, in this chapter. Again, really, we wonder, really, again, I must come back and say, we wonder about a lot of those details. I think a lot of those details are not really needed. I don't know. I try to make sense of this, but sometimes I don't know. I mean, I really don't. Here in this chapter, they found a dead man, and this dead man, later on we will know that it was his father. But of course, the coincidence that they don't know that his father, because the dead body was, on the, and as if they did not see fully the body. So yeah, which is I think quite funny coincidence, and sometimes I thought could be cheap coincidence. In a way, here, by looking at this dead body, they thought this is bad luck, and so on. Okay. If you like, you see here again in this chapter, there are some kind of jokes played, some of the jokes being played against Jim, again to show the racism and the question of race against that. Here, how they, I mean, Huck, at least Huck playing tricks and jokes on little poor Jim. In so many, if you like, so many ways, I think we understand that this is really the idea, if you like. All these chapters, we can see the question of, I don't know, was it, as I said, the feeling that I have, was it a kind of, when I say I'm not happy, was it a kind of exactly what the disdain, the feeling, the rejection, the sentimentality, or the sentimental elements that we find here really are not really romantic, and not nicely or tightly constructed. To see this kind of natural life, was it natural, or was it nice, if you like, a romantic thing? I don't know. I think it's not. I thought it to be funny in a way to try to make us believe this, but I think it is not in many ways. So the question of this dreamlike and this pastoral and this forest and this Rip Van Winkle and all that, I found it really maybe far-fetched, and maybe not there. As if to say Mark Twain failed to do this, but it seems that Mark Twain is deliberately saying to us, well, this is romanticism for you, and if you like this romantic thing, well, this is it. But we feel that the whole thing was not that if you like acceptable. Yeah, we could see here that this is a dreamlike setting. We have a safe, peaceful island, etc., etc. The food, etc., if you like. But you see, we did not get this feeling of romance. We really did not get this feeling of, pure, lovely, if you like, happiness. On the contrary, we found them all the time being worried and not really happy in some way, if you like, as he would like to call it, as like paradisal kind of thing, especially to being on their own and eating whatever they like, smoking, watching the river, and playing around, and So I don't know. I mean, I found this is, as I said, is quite really quite probably quite interesting to some extent, but not really completely in my view. The whole thing was not to me. And the chapters after that, you can see here again another funny coincidence, that they found a woman there in the island there, and we discovered that she called herself Sarah Williams. This is in chapter 11. If I move on to well, I was talking here about chapter 9, because I think here, notice at the end of this, yeah, let me yeah, I think I said that, but notice here, Jim, and so take it all around, we made a good haul. When we was ready to shove off, we was a quarter of a mile below the island. And again, notice, I made Jim lay down the canoe and cover him with a quilt. This is the story was saying, that they were hiding, if you like, or they did not want anybody to see them in that little boat. In chapter, as I said, 10, the same thing. I did not highlight much of it, but in chapter 11, as I said here in this chapter, they found, as I said, funny again, one of those coincidences, that they found a woman there, and as I say, she calls herself Sarah Williams, and we see that this woman is, like a talkative, chattering, and very really funny woman in many ways. But we think this is again. I think this is again some of the questions that I found funny coincidences. The woman here tells them something about Huck's murder, as if to say that Huckleberry was murdered. And she reveals here to them that the father, or Pap, was a suspect, and that some town people nearby lynched him. So people, again, the funny thing here, that they discovered, or they maybe learned that they believed that Pap was the one who killed his son, and people were running after him, and they lynched him, and they maybe killed him. And that's the funny thing later on. Then people began to suspect Jim, because, of course, again, he ran away in the same day Huck was killed. Again, notice here the funny thing, that everybody was suspected of killing Huck when Huck is not killed anyway. So, however, of course, we see the suspicions, of course, turned again against Pap and so on, because of his alcoholism and all this. Again, I think this chapter is giving us another twist. What kind of twist? To accuse all these innocent people of killing somebody who was not killed, of killing someone who was not even killed. You know, again, this is a very funny twist, if you like, in our story. Pap, you can see here, left the town before he could be lynched, but of course, we see that, again, a reward was given to him to find him, and so on. Again, if you like, the idea that she was telling them that she has maybe some hints about what's going on in this island, and she told her husband and everybody to look for Jim there, and that's why they people came to the island. But of course, when it was too late, when Jim and Huck himself have already gone. Again, here we see, in a way, the funny thing is that she's talking here, this woman talking to Huck when he, is pretending to be somebody else, and which is really, I found, again, very amazing. So here we see the woman looking at Huck really suspiciously. If you like, he pretended to be
Excuse me, doctor?
Yeah?
We cannot see anything. We cannot see anything. Yeah, we can.
Oh, really?
We can now. Are we in chapter 11?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was sharing. What you see now?
Yes, we can. Are we in chapter 11, doctor?
Yeah. In chapter 11 and chapter. As I said, I really did not highlight much of this because I thought this is a lot of this could be. Well, I don't know if I'm going to call this more and more details, which are, again, to some extent, I think to some extent, not, I don't know, I mean, to say not as interesting as I thought. Notice here the woman telling him about, here in this, let me, if I you can see this section here, if I just maybe, about the question of the murder and how they were looking for, let me see if I can notice here, the nigger ran off the very night Huck Fun was killed, so she's telling him, as I was saying, the killing of Jim, the killing of Huck, when Huck was, the whole thing was an act, and even the whole thing was not true. I don't know, as I'm saying, Mark Twain I think is doing all this to me. I don't know, sometimes I did not find it funny. To be honest, I did not find it funny. Really, I did not find it funny, but he thought of, packing all this, again, with this idea. I found it really strange. Let me see, did I highlight any of this? Maybe not really, because, she gives us more and more and more and more funny, maybe details about more names, which are really not even not interested or not interesting at all. Anyway, I think I will be, I think, I will be interested only to give you all this till chapter 12, because I think I want to move on to give you the final conclusion, if you like. Yeah, maybe I don't know where did I highlight. Let me check. Let me quickly check this so I can. Yeah, because really I don't want to. Some of this, as I said, it's okay. I mean, yeah. So here in chapter 16, yeah. Let me. Yeah, I think I highlighted this already. Now you have your. Please, I want you to focus only on those. Can you hear me, boys and girls?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Yeah, I want you.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, chapter. Just look at chapter 16, and you know, from 11 to 15. I think you can jump to chapter 16. I think there's something here you can find more and more about ideas to do with this question of Huckleberry trying to save again Jim. And here, as I said, throughout this, I found it maybe a little bit interesting to see the consequence of what was going on. Now, let me see if I can find more chapters to. I'm just flipping through the pages, okay? I'm jumping through the pages to really to see where did I highlight. Yeah. Now, since you have your highlighted text, because I did highlight some of those in chapter 18, you know, just maybe look at this in a way to see maybe the ideas which could be related and important to our really to our main, if you like, topic. As I was saying to you, really, it is the question, as I said, of, well, the whole idea really is, as I say, is about the whole a question of maybe themes or ideas or things which can be mentioned everywhere. You know, there are, as I said, these ideas and themes to do with everything we've seen about Jim and about his superstition and about the folk things and about you know, stories which are really maybe found everywhere in the novel, which are to some extent, I found it to some extent a lot of comedy, which is meant to be comedy, but I don't know whether really Mark Twain he was doing something very funny to some extent, but he was in a strong and unbelievable way attacking all the artistic elements of fiction and the artistic elements of what is romance and what is romantic fiction and what is you know, a plot and what is narrative and so on. So the whole question of parodying or mocking, I think, is one of the main questions in the novel everywhere. Now, as I said, yeah, at the end of the day, that's, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think I will. I want to see if I want to ask you to read more chapters or not, because I think it'll be not fair, to waste time and reading something which is sometimes annoying. Well, not annoying, but could be. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Wait a minute. As I told you, towards the end of the novel, I found a lot of twists, again, a lot of acts, which I really thought they were really not needed. Again, because at the end of the day, I felt sorry and angry that, that Jim was, in a sense, was not given the freedom that he was looking at, after all the time. Yeah, because I'm towards the end of this now. I'm just flipping through. I'm nearly done. Just a second. Yeah, well, it seems that I have not. Yeah, if you just focus the last chapter, he said chapter the last, just read that, will be interesting to see, notice here the end of this. I think this is ironical in many ways, about the last chapter. Please read the last chapter, because I think it is quite interesting to see the twist and the funny conclusion about Jim's situation. So really, that's the whole idea I want to say. Please, if you want, for next time, if you have any question, maybe next lecture, I will leave it for you for discussions, for ideas, if you want to talk about any question or about anything. So read only the first 12 chapters and the last chapter. And as I said, chapter 18. The first 12 chapters and chapter 18 and the last chapter. Okay?
No, doctor, you said chapter 16, not 18.
Oh, was it 16?
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. So really the idea I'm trying to say here is
Doctor,
that yeah?
are you displaying anything in the screen?
Sorry?
Are you displaying anything in the screen, because we can't see anything?
Well, I don't know what. No, I stopped sharing the novel because I was flipping through. I can share to show you again. I was just flipping through.
Okay, doctor.
Yeah, now this is the last chapter, as you can see here, right? You can see it. I'm not sharing anything now. I'm sharing chapter the last. Chapter the last. Here, as I said, this would be an interesting conclusion to see. Again, what is this novel really? If you like, what is it about? The question. Notice here what it was he had planned to do if the evasion worked all right and he managed to set a nigger free that was already free before. And he said what he had planned in his head from the start, if we got Jim out all safe, was, you know, this chapter is like a conclusion and a lot of rhetorical questions. As I said, read it carefully and see what really you can come up with, some questions, if you like, or some answers which we maybe find in this novel. As I told you, really, as I told you, my judgment, of course, we can discuss that if you like, the whole thing for you know, all of us next time. I'll leave it for discussions for next time. Yeah, I mean, you find, especially those of you who read or who really wanted to read the whole novel, you will find that you will have this impression or the feeling that I'm saying. I don't know, maybe the same, maybe not. You'll find many sometimes hanging questions or unanswered questions about the novel and the value of this novel. So yeah, so I will let you read this, especially this last chapter, and to tell me what you think. If you like, we can discuss all those elements next time. Okay, any question? I think I'll stop here today because I think that's more than enough about reading